about rules, because you always hear, here's the conversation I hear at the film school all the time. It goes like this. We watch a student film and it's kind of underwhelming, and somebody says, not that our students always have great films.
Obviously,
obviously,
Paul.
Well, it's Chapman University, for God's sake.
I mean, come on.
But, all right, yeah, somebody will say, well, you know what, they really got to learn the rules of, filmmaking, storytelling. And someone else will say, yeah, but you got to break the rules. And then someone else will say, but you got to learn the rules before you break the rules. And then somebody else will say, how about lunch? Let's go to lunch. How about that? It just goes, this conversation never goes anywhere. Or I'll hear someone say, well, he broke the rules, but it was Hitchcock and he could break the rules. What does that mean? That doesn't help you as a writer. Well, if you don't, instead of asking what's the rule, ask what's the effect. See, if you follow the rules, and I've seen students do this, they'll follow every rule, and they want me to go like this. Hey, congratulations, you followed the rules. Rules don't applaud you, and they don't pay you. And following them means you're a follower. But if you ask what's the effect of my choice, storytelling choice, on the audience, then that puts me in the power position. I'm the one deciding the effect. And audiences do applaud, and they do pay you. So think about what's the effect of what your choices are. So, for example, with Psycho is a good example of a schema. You just mentioned the schema. If you have a major star, and audiences are used to seeing major stars in movies, and they're used to seeing them all the way through the movie. They may die at the end, but they're used to seeing them all the way through the movie. And the producers who paid a lot of money for that star, they want them all the way through the movie to get their money's worth from it. Then that's what the expectation is going to be. And another thing, we talked about how audiences connect to a main character. Well, you use that as a way in a traditional drama, not like an ensemble, but in a drama, like a traditional drama with a single protagonist, that's where the audience connection is. So you're going to keep them interested because that person's alive. Okay, so you have a lot of powerful things going on. But then if you violate that, if you break that, like Hitchcock did, the question isn't he was bad because he broke a rule. It's how did he get away with that? He didn't have the connection to the main character to sustain audience interest through the movie. So what did he do instead? And what he did, you mentioned, he dwelled, and he did it intentionally. He dwelled for a long time on getting what's his name, Bates, to cover it up. And he really took a long time. They could have just cut away and it's all cleaned up. But he washed it out, and he's cleaning it up, and he's doing this, and he's putting the body in there. And it's now, by that time, we've connected to somebody, and we've connected to a young man who's desperately trying to cover up something his mother did. That's the story. And we're going
Or is it? Oh,
we think that. It's hard to see it when you know, but you think it. And
of course.
I'll give you one more example of this, of how, this contrast between following rules and going for effect. Okay, let's say you wanted to write a book about how to tell a knock-knock joke, right? What would you do? You would go around and find every knock-knock joke you could find, and you would come to some general conclusions about it, and you would write the book. And you would say, in order to tell a knock-knock joke, you start out by saying knock-knock. The other person will say, who's there? Then you give a partial answer, and then they say partial answer, who, and repeat it back, and then you give the full answer with a twist. And that's how you do it. Those are the rules, okay? So let me try this. Knock-knock.
Who's there?
Control freak. Okay, now here's where you say control freak who. Okay, so
that was good.
I like that. Right. I just broke the rules, but I didn't. The effect I wanted was a laugh, not the rules. So I relied on the schema of knock-knock joke to get the effect I wanted, which was the laugh, rather than to simply deliver another knock-knock joke.
That's great.
These are the different.
That's really great.
But this is, thank you. Well, so this is the world that Frank Daniel got me into, which is playing games with the audience, and ultimately strategizing on how to keep the audience wondering what's going to happen next. And if you can do that, if you know how to do that, you can do anything with them in a feature film, and you can pivot into streaming. You can pivot into stage, into one act, 10-minute plays. It doesn't matter. You understand how to grab them and how to keep them. It puts you in a real power position. So we were not taught, like, by page 30 this, by page 60 this, by page 90 this. We weren't really taught that, or we were discouraged from following formula. Actually, the one formula we were told to follow was stories about exciting people told in an exciting way. If you use that formula, you're asking the right questions. What's an exciting character, and what is how do you tell that story in a exciting way? It doesn't mean that you're not going to see the patterns, because often you will. And if you don't have any other resource, I know a really successful, very good writer who learned from Sid Field. Just read the book, and she's done one. And I'm saying I've analyzed the films for the class, and they're like terrific. So it's a tool that can help you. We were just taught in a different world where you're thinking about how it's affecting your audience. And yes, Frank Danielle did the 3-act structure. And I hear people say, well, Sid Field came up with the 3-act structure. There was actually a book that came out the year before Screenplay that espoused the 3-act structure, but it just didn't catch on. I forget what it was called. But Frank Danielle in '79 had been talking about it for years, and of course you can trace it to Aristotle. It becomes explicit. There's a book called Playmaking by Archer. I forget the guy's first name. Came out in 1912, I think. And he described essentially a 3-act structure. He said plays tend to be 5 acts, but they're really 3, set up, development, resolution. It's been around a while. But as I say, it's really, the way I approach it, it's a tool for getting us into this mode of hope and fear, which is what sustains our interest. And then you go from there. So if you want to use that tool, you use it.
Yeah, right. And it's exactly what you're saying is like, if it works for the outcome that you're trying to achieve, then use it. If you want to use a hammer, or if you want to use an iPhone to get that nail into the wood while you're building the house,
right,
it's your choice. One tool probably will do it better than the other and is less expensive, but whatever works for you, that makes sense for you and what you're trying to achieve, you should use.